The dust on Vareth Prime's forgotten moon hadn't been disturbed in years. Ancient mining equipment stood silent like metal ghosts in the dim light. Nothing lived here anymore. The corporations had taken everything valuable and left. Taman checked his scanner again. The readings made no sense. His mission was simple: map the old colony, confirm it was still abandoned, and move on. Earth's Deep Space Reconnaissance Unit sent him to places nobody else wanted to visit. He didn't mind. The quiet suited him. Beside him, Cypher suddenly stopped walking. The massive Hound's ears went flat against his head. His enhanced nose twitched rapidly, sampling the thin atmosphere through his breathing mask. "What is it, boy?" Taman knelt beside his partner. Cypher wasn't like normal dogs from Earth. Scientists had modified him, made him stronger and smarter. His senses could detect things no machine could find. More importantly, Taman trusted him completely. Cypher whined low in his throat. He pulled against his lead, heading toward the restricted crash zone. That area was marked dangerous on all the maps. Old fuel cells leaked radiation there. "We can't go that way," Taman said. But Cypher wouldn't stop pulling. The dog's behavior was unusual. In 3 years together, Cypher had never acted like this without good reason. Taman made a decision. "All right, show me." They moved carefully through the twisted metal and broken concrete. The crash zone was worse than the report suggested. Something had hit hard here, and recently, fresh scorch marks covered the ground. Taman's radiation detector stayed quiet. Whatever had crashed, it wasn't leaking fuel. Cypher led him to a piece of wreckage that didn't match the old mining equipment. The metal was too smooth, too advanced. Taman recognized the design: Valthene technology, one of the major alien empires. What was their ship doing here? Then Cypher started digging frantically at a pile of debris. "Easy, easy," Taman said, helping move the smaller pieces. His heart raced. If someone survived a crash, they might still be alive. Under the metal, he found an escape pod. It was beautiful even in its damaged state, covered with elegant designs and symbols. Definitely Valthene. The door had been forced open from the outside, not the inside. That was wrong. Escape pods opened from within. Cypher squeezed through the opening, barking urgently. Taman pulled out his flashlight and looked inside. His breath caught. A figure lay crumpled in the pod's corner. Definitely Valthene, tall and elegant with pale blue skin that showed delicate patterns. Those patterns glowed faintly, barely visible. The stranger wore clothes made from expensive fabric, now torn and stained. "Hello? Can you hear me?" Taman climbed into the pod. No response. He checked for a pulse, found one, weak and irregular. Alive, but barely. As he moved the stranger carefully, he noticed something important. The patterns on the skin weren't random. They formed symbols. Royal symbols. Taman had studied alien cultures during his training. These markings meant nobility. High nobility. This wasn't just any Valthene. This was someone important. He examined the pod more carefully. The life support system had been manually disabled. The emergency beacon was destroyed. Food supplies were missing. Someone had sabotaged everything. This person was left here to die. Cypher nuzzled the stranger's hand gently, whining softly. The Valthene's eyes fluttered but didn't open. Taman's radio crackled. "Scout 7, report status." He looked at the dying stranger, then at Cypher, then at his radio. Protocol was clear. Report everything immediately. Wait for orders. Don't get involved in alien affairs. The storm warning on his scanner started flashing. A plasma storm was coming, maybe 2 hours away. The type that would fry all electronics and kill anything caught outside. Scout 7, respond. If he reported this now, they'd tell him to wait for a diplomatic team. That would take days. This person had hours at most. The poison working through the bloodstream was visible in the darkening veins under the pale skin. Taman made his second rule-breaking decision of the day. Scout 7 here. Found some old equipment acting up. Probably the storm interference. We'll report full details after the storm passes. Scout 7 out. He silenced the radio before they could respond. "Come on, Cypher. We need to move fast." The old mining colony had underground shelters. Taman had mapped them earlier. One was close, maybe 15 minutes away. He carefully lifted the Valthene stranger. She was lighter than expected, her bones hollow like a bird's. Definitely female, he realized, seeing her features more clearly. Cypher led the way, checking each step for danger. The wind was already picking up. Dust devils danced across the broken ground. They reached the shelter with 20 minutes to spare. The door mechanism was broken, but Taemin forced it open manually. Inside, the air was stale but breathable. Emergency lights flickered on, powered by underground generators that still worked. He laid the Valthine woman on an old workbench, the cleanest surface available. Her breathing was getting worse. Those glowing patterns on her skin were fading. Taemin opened his medical kit. It was designed for humans, but basic biology was similar for most species. Stop bleeding, maintain breathing, keep them warm. He started an IV line, hoping the fluids would help. Cypher wouldn't leave her side. He lay down next to the bench, his big head resting on his paws, watching her constantly. I know, boy. I know. Taemin stroked the dog's head. We'll do what we can. Outside, the plasma storm hit. Lightning turned the sky purple and green. Thunder shook the shelter walls. They were trapped here now, maybe for a full day until the storm passed. Taemin studied the woman's face. Even dying, she looked regal. Proud. The kind of person who gave orders and expected them followed. What had happened to her? Who wanted a Valthine royal dead badly enough to sabotage an escape pod? She mumbled something in her language, delirious from the poison. Taemin's translator couldn't make sense of it. He checked her vital signs again. Worse. Without proper medicine, she would die before morning. Taemin looked at all his supplies spread out on the floor. Nothing matched Valthine biology exactly, but he had to try something. All right, he said to Cypher. Let's figure this out. What kind of poison leaves marks like these? Cypher sniffed carefully at the woman's arm where the veins showed darkest. His enhanced nose analyzed things human technology couldn't. After a moment, he sneezed and backed away, shaking his head. That bad? Taemin asked. The dog whined in confirmation. Outside, the storm raged on. Inside the small shelter, a human and his hound worked to save an alien princess neither of them knew. Taemin didn't know her name or her story. He didn't know that saving her would change everything for humanity's place in the galaxy. He only knew one thing for certain. He couldn't let her die. Not like this. Not alone on a forgotten moon. That simple human decision would echo across the stars. The plasma storm lasted through the night. Taemin didn't sleep. He couldn't. Every hour, the Valthine woman's breathing became weaker. The dark lines spreading through her veins reached further across her skin. He tried everything in his medical kit. Antibiotics did nothing. Antitoxins designed for humans made her worse. He had to remove the IV after her arm swelled dangerously. Cypher stayed pressed against her side, sharing his body heat. The shelter's heating system barely worked and her temperature kept dropping. Come on, Taemin whispered, wiping her forehead with a damp cloth. Don't give up. Fight. Near dawn, she started talking in her sleep. The fever made her delirious. Taemin's translator caught some words now that she spoke more clearly. Uncle, no. The treaty. You promised. Her hand grabbed at the air, reaching for something that wasn't there. The children. Protect the children. Vycross, you traitor. Taemin leaned closer, recording everything. This might be important. Left me to die. Uncle, why? Her eyes opened suddenly, wild and unfocused. She looked directly at Taemin but didn't seem to see him. When she spoke, the translator worked perfectly. I am Princess Nara, daughter of Emperor Theron, rightful heir to the Valthine throne. I curse you, Vycross. I curse your treachery. May the stars witness your betrayal. Then she collapsed back unconscious again. Her breathing turned rough and irregular. Taemin sat back, processing what he'd heard. Princess, heir to the throne. This was worse than he thought. This was political. A coup, maybe. And whoever this Vycross was, he had powerful friends if he could make a royal escape pod disappear. His radio crackled to life. The storm was passing. His commander's voice came through angry. Scout 7, report immediately. Taemin picked up the radio slowly. Scout 7 here. Shelter held through the storm. No damage. You went radio silent without authorization. Explain. Storm interference was worse than predicted. My mistake, Commander Hyejin. There was a long pause. Hyejin knew him well. They'd served together for 5 years. She could tell when he was hiding something. Taemin, what did you find? He looked at Princess Nara, at Cypher keeping her warm, at the choice in front of him. Nothing important, just old equipment. Another pause, longer this time. Your GPS shows you in the crash zone, the restricted area. Why? Following a scanner malfunction. It's resolved now. Return to base immediately. That's an order. Taman closed his eyes. Understood. We'll begin return journey once I finish securing the area. How long? Few hours. Maybe 6. You have 4. Heijin out. The radio went silent. Taman knew what would happen next. Heijin would check satellite data from before the storm. She'd see him entering the crashed pod. She'd know he was lying. He had maybe 4 hours before serious trouble arrived. Cypher suddenly perked up, ears rotating. He growled low, a warning sound. Taman grabbed his weapon and moved to the shelter's small window. Outside, the storm had cleared. The morning sun made the dust glow orange. And in the sky, a ship was descending, not a human ship. The design was Valthine. No, Taman muttered. He checked his scanner. The ship was heading directly for the crash site. Not a rescue ship, no medical markings, no emergency signals. This was a military patrol, coming to confirm the kill. Taman looked around the shelter frantically. The underground room had one entrance, no other exits. If they searched carefully, they'd find this place. Cypher barked once, sharp and commanding. He jumped off the bench and ran to a corner of the room, scratching at the floor. Years of dust covered everything, but underneath there were markings. Old mining tunnel access, good boy. Taman rushed over and started clearing the floor. Sure enough, a hatch lay hidden under decades of dirt. He pulled it open. Below was darkness and stale air, but it was a way out. The ship landed with a heavy thud that shook the ground. Taman heard boots on metal, multiple soldiers moving fast. He ran back to Nara, lifting her carefully. She was burning with fever now, her skin hot to touch. He carried her to the hatch and climbed down the ladder one-handed, muscles straining. Cypher followed, nimble despite his size. The tunnel was narrow and dark. Taman's flashlight showed old mining rails disappearing into the distance. He laid Nara down gently and climbed back up to close the hatch. Through the shelter's window, he saw Valthine soldiers approaching. They were beautiful in an intimidating way. Tall, graceful, with armor that looked like art. Their weapons hummed with energy. Taman pulled the hatch closed silently and climbed back down. In the tunnel, he waited, barely breathing. Above, he heard boots entering the shelter. Voices speaking in Valthine. His translator whispered in his ear. Scan shows recent human presence. Just a scout. They're always poking around these old sites. Check thoroughly. The princess must not be found alive. This shelter is empty. Just old equipment. What about those tracks outside? Leading away? A new voice colder than the others. Follow them. If you find a human, eliminate them. If they saw anything, they cannot report it. Taman's blood ran cold. Cypher pressed against his leg, silent and tense. The voices moved away. Boots crunched on gravel outside. They were following tracks, probably the marks from when Taman and Cypher had approached the shelter. Go, one voice commanded. Search pattern Delta. The human scout is on foot. They can't have gone far. Taman heard the soldiers move away. He waited 10 more minutes, then carefully opened his scanner. The Valthine ship was still on the ground, but the soldiers were spreading out, searching the area. Cypher whined softly, pushing his nose against Nara's face. She was getting worse. The poison was winning. Taman made a decision. He couldn't save her with his basic supplies. He needed real help. But he couldn't go back to his base. Heijin would turn Nara over to the Valthine immediately. That meant certain death. There was only one option. Haven Station. It was an unofficial human settlement 3 days away on foot. The kind of place Earth Command pretended didn't exist. Smugglers, deserters, refugees, and opportunists all lived there together. No rules except the basic ones, no killing, no stealing, and mind your own business. His friend Dong Hyun ran a medical clinic there. If anyone could help Nara, it was him. But reaching Haven meant crossing open territory. Valthine patrols would be everywhere now, searching for evidence of Nara's death. Taman looked at Cypher. The dog met his eyes steadily, trusting completely. We're going off the map, boy. All the way off, he lifted Nara again. She weighed almost nothing now, as if the poison was consuming her from inside. Her royal markings barely glowed anymore. Hold on, princess, he whispered. Just hold on a little longer. Taman had his scanner memorize the tunnel system earlier. These mining tunnels connected to others, forming a network under the old colony. He could travel underground for several kilometers before needing to surface. He started walking, carrying a dying alien princess through the dark. Cypher scouted ahead, his enhanced eyes seeing perfectly in the darkness. Above them, Valthine soldiers searched for any trace of their target. They wouldn't find her. Taman would make sure of that, even if it meant he could never go home again. Even if Earth Command declared him a deserter. Some things mattered more than following orders, like keeping a promise to himself, that he wouldn't let an innocent person die alone. Cypher looked back at him, and Taman could swear the dog understood everything. The hound's tail wagged once, firm and confident. They had each other. They had determination, and they had 3 days to achieve the impossible. The journey to Haven Station had begun. 3 days later, Taman stumbled through Haven Station's entrance carrying a body that barely breathed. Cypher walked beside him, limping from a cut on his paw. Both were covered in dust and exhausted beyond measure. Haven Station existed inside a massive asteroid, hollowed out by miners decades ago. Now it housed maybe 300 people from a dozen different species. Neon signs flickered in multiple languages. The air smelled like cooking food, machine oil, and too many bodies in one place. Nobody stopped Taman. Nobody asked questions. That was Haven's first rule: mind your business. He headed straight for the clinic, a small space carved into the rock near the station's center. The sign outside read Donghyun's Medical Services in 5 languages. Taman kicked the door open. "Donghyun, I need help." A man looked up from bandaging an alien's arm. He was young, maybe 30, with tired eyes and quick hands. When he saw Taman, his expression shifted from surprise to concern. "Taman, what are you?" Then he saw Nara. "Get her on the table now." Taman laid Nara down on the examination table. She hadn't woken in 2 days. The dark lines covered most of her body now. Her royal markings were almost completely dark. Donghyun's hands moved fast, checking vital signs and scanning with medical equipment. His face grew serious. "This is Valthine poison. Royal-grade assassination tool. Where did you find her?" "Abandoned moon. Someone left her to die. Someone very powerful." Donghyun pulled out medications, mixing them quickly. "These markings. Taman, do you know who she is?" "Princess Nara, heir to the Valthine throne." Donghyun stopped moving. He stared at Taman like he'd lost his mind. "You brought a Valthine princess here? Are you trying to start a war?" "I'm trying to save her life. Earth Command will execute you for this. The Valthine will want you dead too. Everyone will want you dead." "I know." Donghyun shook his head but kept working. "You always were stubborn. Help me hold her arm steady." They worked for hours. Donghyun injected medicine, cleared toxins from her blood, stabilized her vital signs. Cypher lay in the corner, watching everything with sharp eyes. Finally, Donghyun stepped back. "She'll live, probably. The next 24 hours will tell us for sure." Taman sagged with relief. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We need to talk about what happens next." Donghyun washed his hands, his face troubled. "A Valthine princess doesn't just disappear by accident. This is politics. Big politics." "I know someone who can help with that," Taman said. "Is Subin still around?" "The information broker?" "Yeah, she's here. But her information isn't cheap. I'll pay whatever she wants." Donghyun gave him a long look. "You really care about this stranger, don't you?" Taman looked at Nara's unconscious form. "Nobody deserves to die alone, especially not like that." "That's the most human thing I've ever heard," Donghyun muttered. "And probably the most stupid." They found Subin in her usual spot, a bar called The Crossroads where aliens and humans drank together. She was small and sharp-eyed with fingers that moved constantly across data tablets. "Taman," she greeted him without looking up. "Heard you dragged something interesting through the door." "News travels fast. It's my job to know everything." Now she looked at him, her eyes calculating. "A Valthine princess. That's dangerous cargo. What can you tell me about what happened?" Subin gestured for him to sit. She pulled up news feeds on her tablet. 5 days ago, Princess Nara's escape pod malfunctioned during a diplomatic mission. She died instantly, that's the official story. She's not dead, obviously, which means someone very powerful wants everyone to think she is. Subin scrolled through more data. There was a power shift in the Valthine Empire 3 days ago. Lord Vycross, the princess's uncle, has taken control as regent. He claims to be protecting the throne until the younger heirs come of age. He tried to kill her, almost certainly. And here's the interesting part. Vycross just signed a treaty with the Drexar Collective. Taman felt cold. The Drexar were a militant species always looking for an advantage. What kind of treaty? Military alliance. The Drexar get access to Valthene technology. Vikros gets Drexar support for his rule. That threatens the whole sector's balance, including humanity's safety, Subin agreed. If the Drexar get Valthene weapons, they'll be unstoppable. Earth's colonies are right in their expansion path. Taemin understood now. This wasn't just about saving one person. This was about preventing a war that could destroy humanity's presence in space. What about Nara's siblings? He asked. Prince Kalen and Princess Yuna. Both children, both under Vikros's protection in the palace. If Nara stays dead, Vikros will rule until they're adults. And accidents happen to children too. Taemin's hands clenched into fists. Subin watched him carefully. You're thinking of doing something stupid, aren't you? I'm thinking we can't let this happen. We? Subin laughed. There is no we. I sell information. I don't fight wars. What if I could pay you more than you've ever made? With what? You're a scout. You have no money? Not yet. But if we save those children and stop Vikros, Nara would reward us. Reward us very well. Subin was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. You're either brilliant or insane. I haven't decided which. Will you help? I'll think about it. Come back tomorrow. She paused. And Taemin? There are Valthene agents in Haven. They're asking questions about dead princesses. You should hide her better. Back at the clinic, Dong-hyun had moved Nara to a private room. Cypher was already there, lying beside her bed like a guardian. She woke up for a minute, Dong-hyun said, asked where she was. I gave her something to help her sleep. Did she say anything else? She asked about a dog. Said a dog saved her. I told her he's right here waiting. Dong-hyun smiled. She didn't believe me at first. I guess Valthene don't think much of animals. Taemin sat down beside the bed. Nara looked peaceful now, her breathing steady. The dark lines were fading slowly. She would survive. What did you do, Taemin? Dong-hyun asked quietly. Earth Command has you listed as a deserter. There's a warrant out. I saved someone who needed help. At the cost of everything you had. Your career, your home, your future. Some things matter more. Dong-hyun shook his head. Humans, we're all crazy. That night, Nara's eyes opened. She looked around the room confused, then saw Cypher. The dog's tail wagged slowly. You're real, she whispered in her language. The translator on the wall converted it to human speech. The dog is real. His name is Cypher, Taemin said from his chair in the corner. He found you. Saved your life. Nara's eyes moved to him. You're human. Yes. Why did you save me? Because you needed saving. She was quiet for a long time. Where am I? Somewhere safe. Your uncle's men think you're dead. Her face hardened at the mention of Vikros. My siblings. Are they safe? For now. But Vikros controls the palace. Tears formed in Nara's eyes. I failed them. I should have seen the betrayal coming. You didn't fail. You survived. That means there's still hope. She looked at him with something like wonder. You're just a human. A primitive species. Why would you risk yourself for me? Taemin met her eyes steadily. Because it was the right thing to do. Nara stared at him for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She reached out and touched Cypher's head gently. The dog licked her hand. I was taught that humans were barbarians, she said softly. That you understood only violence and greed. But you crossed impossible distance to save me. You defied your own people. And this creature, this animal, stayed beside me when I was dying. She looked at Taemin again. Perhaps I was taught wrong. Maybe we all have things to learn about each other, Taemin replied. Outside the small room, Haven Station continued its chaotic existence. But inside, something important had shifted. A princess had begun to see humans differently, and that single change would echo across the galaxy. Nara recovered faster than Dong-hyun expected. Within 3 days, she could walk. Within a week, she was strong enough to leave the clinic. But she had nowhere to go. Haven Station became her prison and her sanctuary. She couldn't return to her empire. Vikros's people thought she was dead, and that was the only thing keeping her alive. She spent her time watching the station's inhabitants. It confused her. Here, humans lived alongside species that had fought each other for centuries. A Drexar merchant sold weapons to a human trader. Children from 4 different species played together in the corridors. Enemies became neighbors. How do you do it? She asked Taemin one evening. They sat in the crossroads watching the crowd. Do what? Make peace with everyone. Falthine have alliances, but we maintain strict separation. We don't mix like this, Taemin shrugged. Humans learned early that we are weaker than most species. We can't win by strength alone, so we learned to cooperate. That sounds like weakness, does it? He gestured around the bar. Every person here came from somewhere else. Refugees, criminals, deserters, explorers. Alone, they'd all be dead. Together, they built a community. That's not weakness. That's survival. Nara watched a human woman share her dinner with an alien child who was obviously hungry. The woman didn't ask questions. She just helped. Your people are strange, Nara said quietly. We hear that a lot. Subin approached their table, her face serious. We need to talk. Private room now. They followed her to a back room. Donghyun was already there, along with two people Nara hadn't met. This is Ji-won. Subin introduced a young woman with sharp eyes and quick fingers that never stopped moving on her datapad. Best hacker in 3 sectors. And this is Myung-soo. She pointed to a man with graying hair and a pilot's jacket. He can fly anything. Why are we meeting? Nara asked. Ji-won looked up from her pad. Because I just hacked into the Valthian communication network. And what I found is bad. She projected images in the air. Nara's siblings appeared, Kaylin and Yuna. They were in a beautiful room that Nara recognized as the palace's secure wing. They're alive, Nara breathed. For now, Ji-won said grimly. But listen to this, a recording played. Vycross's voice talking to someone Nara didn't recognize. The brats are becoming a problem. People ask about them. The boy especially won't stop talking about his sister. Give them accidents, another voice suggested. Nothing suspicious. Children are fragile, not yet. Too soon after Nara's death. Wait 6 months. Then they'll disappear quietly. Nara's hands shook with rage. He's planning to murder children. His own blood. Power makes people do terrible things, Subin said. But here's the worst news. The Drexar Alliance is moving forward. In 2 weeks, Vycross will hand over Valthian weapons technology. That will make the Drexar the strongest military in the sector. Earth's colonies are in their path, Myung-soo added. They've wanted our territory for years. Now they'll have the firepower to take it. Taemin looked at Nara. What would happen if you appeared alive? My return would be legally complicated. Vycross is regent. He has authority over security forces. Some would follow me, but not all. It would split the empire. But if you had proof of his treachery, then the nobility would be forced to support me. Valthian law is absolute about treason. Ji-won smiled. I can get proof. His communications are encrypted, but not well enough. Give me a few days. Even with proof, how do we get to the palace? Nara asked. It's the most heavily guarded location in the empire. We could get in, Myung-soo said slowly. During the coronation ceremony. Vycross is making it official, crowning himself emperor instead of just regent. Security will be tight but also distracted. Everyone watching the ceremony. That's suicide, Donghyun protested. A handful of people against the entire palace guard? We wouldn't be alone, Subin said. I've been making contacts. Some of Nara's loyal retainers are still alive. They're hiding, waiting for a sign that she survived. If she appears, they'll fight for her. Nara stood up, pacing. You're talking about starting a war. Inside my own empire, thousands could die. Thousands will die anyway, Taemin said quietly. When the Drexar get those weapons and start expanding. Our colony worlds, your empire's outer systems, everyone in their path. So I'm supposed to risk everything? My people's stability? All to save myself? Not yourself, Taemin corrected. Your siblings. Your empire's future. The peace of the sector. Nara looked at each of them. Why would you help me? You're humans. This isn't your fight. It became our fight when Vycross allied with the Drexar, Myung-soo said. My daughter lives on Proxima Colony. If the Drexar comes, she dies. My parents fled from Drexar territory, Ji-won added. I've seen what they do to conquered people. We can't let them get stronger. And you? Nara looked at Taemin. You already saved me once. You've lost everything. Why keep helping? Taemin reached down and scratched Cypher's ears. The dog had been listening quietly, understanding more than a regular animal should. Because no one deserves to die for someone else's ambition. Taemin said simply, your siblings, our colonists, all the innocent people in the path of this war. If we can stop it, we have to try. Even though the odds are impossible, humans specialize in impossible. Nara was quiet for a long time. Then she knelt down and looked at Cypher. The dog met her eyes calmly. "You stayed with me when I was dying," she said to him. "You didn't know me. You didn't know if I was good or evil. You only knew I needed help." Cypher's tail wagged once. Nara stood up. When she spoke, her voice had the command of royalty. "Very well. We'll do this. But I make one demand." "What?" Subin asked. If I die, you must still save my siblings. Promise me." Taemin nodded. "You have my word. Then I will trust you. All of you. Even though you're strangers. Even though you're human." She smiled slightly. "My tutors would be horrified." "Your tutors weren't here when you needed saving," Donghyun pointed out. Over the next week, they planned. Ji-won gathered intelligence, hacking deeper into Valthene systems. Myung-soo prepared his ship and plotted escape routes. Subin contacted Nara's loyal supporters, slowly building a network. Donghyun trained Taemin in Valthene biology, teaching him where to shoot if fighting became necessary. "They're elegant but fragile," he explained. "Humans are tougher. Use that advantage." Nara worked with Ji-won, providing security codes and palace layouts from memory. She was sharp, detail-oriented, regal even in simple clothes borrowed from Haven's shops. One night, Taemin found her in the observation deck looking at the stars. "Homesick?" he asked. "Terrified," she admitted. "I'm about to start a civil war. Everything I do will cause suffering. Everything Vikros does is already causing suffering. You're trying to stop it. The difference feels very thin sometimes." Taemin stood beside her. "My father told me something once. He said good people don't choose between right and wrong. That's easy. They choose between two hard rights. Between stability and justice. Between peace now and peace later. Those choices are never easy." "Your father sounds wise." He was. He died saving 3 people from a collapsed building. Could have waited for help. Chose not to. "You're like him," Nara said quietly. "You make impossible choices look simple. They're not simple." "I'm scared too." She looked at him, surprised. "You don't show it. Humans are good at hiding fear. We've had a lot of practice." Nara reached out slowly and touched his shoulder, a gesture of respect in Valthene culture. "When this is over, if we survive, I want to learn more about humans. Really learn, not just what my tutors taught." "We'd like that," Taemin said. Cypher barked once from the doorway, tail wagging. "Yes, you too," Nara laughed. It was the first time Taemin had heard her laugh. It sounded like music. The day before they left, Nara did something traditional. She called everyone together in the clinic. "In Valthene culture, we have a ceremony," she explained. "When warriors go to battle together, they share marks. It binds them as family, not by blood, but by choice." She used a special ink that Ji-won had synthesized, painting small symbols on each person's hand. On Taemin's, she painted longest, the mark of a royal guardian. When she reached Cypher, everyone expected her to skip him. He was an animal, after all. Instead, Nara knelt down and carefully painted a symbol on the dog's forehead. The mark of First Guardian, a title that hadn't been given in 1,000 years. "You saved me when everyone else had left me to die," she said to Cypher. "You are the first guardian of my life. The most honored position in my culture. Wear this mark with pride." Cypher licked her face. Everyone laughed, even Nara. The next morning, they departed for the Valthene Empire, a small group of humans and 1 alien princess going to overthrow a tyrant and prevent a war. The odds were terrible. The risks were enormous. Failure meant death for everyone. But as Taemin watched his strange new family prepare for battle, he felt something unexpected. Hope. These people had come together from nothing. They'd chosen loyalty over safety. They'd chosen to fight instead of hide. Maybe that was the real human strength. Not technology or tactics, just the stubborn refusal to give up when it mattered most. Cypher barked excitedly as the ship launched. The Hound had no idea what they were flying toward. He only knew his pack was together, and for a human's best friend, that was everything that mattered. The Valthene capital world was beautiful. 3 moons hung in a purple sky. Crystal towers reached toward the stars. Everything gleamed with wealth and power. Myung-soo's ship approached carefully using codes that Ji-won had stolen. They appeared as a diplomatic vessel bringing guests for the coronation. The real diplomatic ship was currently experiencing engine troubles 3 systems away, courtesy of Subin's sabotage. "We're cleared for landing," Myung-soo announced. "Platform 7 near the palace." Nara stood at the window looking at her home. She'd left as a princess on a diplomatic mission. Now she returned as a ghost, planning to disrupt her uncle's coronation. "Are you ready?" Taemin asked. "No, but we're out of time." The palace was enormous, a structure that took 3 centuries to build. Thousands of guests were arriving for the coronation, lords and ladies in elegant clothes, diplomats from 100 worlds. The ceremony would be broadcast across the empire. Vycross wanted everyone to see his triumph. The team split into groups. Subin stayed with the ship, managing communications. Jiwon would hack into the palace systems from a nearby building. Donghyun and Myungsu would create distractions if needed. That left Taemin, Cypher, and Nara for the main task, finding her siblings. They entered through a service entrance that Nara knew from her childhood. The codes were old but still worked. Inside, the palace buzzed with activity. Servants rushed everywhere. Guards stood at every corner. "The children will be in the eastern tower," Nara whispered. "Vycross keeps them isolated. Claims it's for their safety." They moved through corridors that were almost too beautiful. Gold walls, art that cost more than entire planets. Everything perfect and cold. Cypher's nose twitched constantly, tracking scents. He could smell thousands of people, but he was focused on finding 2 specific scents: young Valthene royalty. A group of guards approached. Taemin tensed, but Nara stepped forward confidently. "I am Lady Nara's handmaiden," she said in perfect courtly Valthene. Her voice changed to sound like a servant's. "I carry documents for Lord Vycross." The guards barely looked at her. A servant was invisible to nobility. They waved her through. "That was risky," Taemin muttered when they were alone again. "Sometimes the best hiding place is in plain sight." They reached the eastern tower. 2 guards stood at the entrance. These ones looked more alert, more professional. "We need a distraction," Nara said. Cypher barked once, loud and sharp. The guards turned toward the sound. Taemin threw a small device that Jiwon had prepared. It sparked and smoked, making noise. "Fire alarm!" one guard yelled. They both ran toward the smoke. Taemin and Nara slipped past them into the tower, up 3 flights of stairs, down a long corridor, to a door marked with royal seals. Nara placed her hand on the scanner. It rejected her. She was supposed to be dead. But Jiwon had promised a backdoor code. Nara entered it. The door opened. Inside, 2 children sat on elegant furniture, looking miserable. The boy was maybe 10 years old. The girl was younger, perhaps 7. Both had the same royal markings as Nara, though theirs were less developed. They looked up when the door opened. Their eyes went wide. "Nara?" the boy whispered. "But you're dead." "Clearly not, Kaelin." Nara knelt and hugged both children fiercely. "I'm here. I'm alive, and I'm taking you somewhere safe." "Uncle Vycross said you died in an accident," little Yuna said. Uncle Vycross lied. Kaelin's eyes hardened with understanding beyond his years. "He tried to kill you." "Yes. He's going to kill us too, isn't he?" Nara hesitated, then decided on truth. "Yes, eventually." Yuna started crying. Kaelin put his arm around his sister, protective despite his own fear. "This is Taemin," Nara introduced. "He's human. He saved my life. And this is Cypher, his hound. They're going to help us." Kaelin looked at the dog with wonder. "Is that really an Earth animal?" "I've read about them. They're supposed to be loyal." "The most loyal," Taemin confirmed. Cypher walked over and let Yuna pet him. The girl's tears stopped as she touched the dog's soft fur. "We need to move fast," Nara said. "The coronation starts in 1 hour. We need to be in position." "In position for what?" Kaelin asked. Nara smiled grimly. "To show your uncle that I'm not as dead as he hoped." They made it back to the main palace without trouble. Jiwon had created chaos in the security systems. Cameras showing old recordings, doors opening randomly, alarms triggering in empty rooms. The guards were confused and scattered. The team gathered in a hidden room that Nara remembered. It overlooked the great hall where the coronation would happen. "The recording is ready," Jiwon reported through her communicator. "Everything Vycross said about killing Nara, about planning to kill the children, about the Drexar Alliance. It's all compiled and ready to broadcast." "How's the situation outside?" Taemin asked. "Not great," Myungsu replied. "I'm seeing Drexar military ships in orbit. Way more than should be here for a coronation." "They're here for the weapons transfer," Nara said. "It's happening today during the ceremony." "Then we stop it today," Taemin said simply. The great hall filled with guests. Thousands of Valthene nobility in their finest clothes. ambassadors from across the galaxy. At the front, a throne that had sat empty since Nara's father died. Vikros entered to great applause. He wore ceremonial robes covered with jewels. He smiled and waved, every inch the confident ruler. He looked so happy. Yuna whispered, "How can someone evil look so happy?" "Evil people often do," Nara replied. "That's why they're dangerous." The ceremony began. Long speeches about tradition and continuity, priests blessing the new emperor, officials swearing loyalty. Everything formal and perfect. Finally, the moment came. The crown was brought forward, an ancient artifact that had crowned every Valthine emperor for 3,000 years. The priest raised it toward Vikros's head. "Now," Nara said. Jiwan activated the broadcast. Every screen in the palace, every display across the empire, switched from the ceremony to the recording she'd compiled. Vikros's voice filled the hall. "The brats are becoming a problem. Give them accidents. Nothing suspicious," and the crowd gasped. Nobles looked at each other in shock. "That's fake," Vikros shouted. "Someone fabricated this." Then the second recording played. Vikros negotiating with Drexar commanders, promising them Valthine weapons, planning military cooperation that violated a dozen treaties. The hall erupted in chaos. Nobles shouted. Guards didn't know what to do. Ambassadors started leaving, not wanting to be associated with treason. "It's time," Nara said. She stood, walking to the balcony that overlooked the great hall. Her siblings and Taman followed. Cypher walked at her side. Nara raised her hand. Her royal markings glowed brightly, fully recovered now, the sign of living royalty. The hall went silent. "I am Princess Nara." Her voice carried across the space, amplified by the hall's acoustics. "Daughter of Emperor Theron, rightful heir to the throne. I was not killed in an accident. I was poisoned by order of Lord Vikros, who sought to steal power that was never his." Vikros stared up at her, his face twisted with rage and fear. "Impossible, you died. I saw the reports. You saw what you wanted to see. But humans found me. Humans saved me. And now humans stand with me to stop your treachery." Taemin stepped forward so everyone could see him. A human in the palace, standing beside the princess. "It was almost unthinkable. Arrest them!" Vikros screamed at his guards. Some guards moved toward the balcony. Others hesitated. Then something unexpected happened. A group of nobles stepped forward, forming a protective line. "We stand with Princess Nara," one of them declared. "The rightful heir. The true empress." More nobles joined them, then more. Within moments, half the hall had declared for Nara, but the other half stayed with Vikros. They drew weapons. The hall divided, two groups facing each other with growing hostility. "This is a civil war," Donghyun said quietly through the communicator. "It's actually happening." "Not if I can help it," Nara replied. She raised her voice again. "Lord Vikros, I challenge you to single combat, as is my right under Valthine law. If you defeat me, you keep the throne. If I win, you surrender all claims." Vikros laughed. "You're weak from poison. You've been hiding for weeks. You can't possibly fight. Then accept the challenge. Prove your right to rule." Vikros couldn't refuse without looking like a coward. Under Valthine law, the challenge was sacred. He nodded slowly. "I accept." The nobles cleared space in the center of the hall. Ancient tradition required single combat between rulers to be witnessed but not interrupted. Taemin grabbed Nara's arm. "You can't do this. You're still recovering. He'll kill you. Valthine law requires it. And if I die, you promise to save my siblings." "Nara, trust me," she said softly. "I learned from the best. I watched you risk everything for someone you didn't know. Now it's my turn." She walked down to the hall. Vikros was already there, holding a ceremonial blade. He was taller, stronger, and hadn't been poisoned recently. The duel began. Vikros attacked immediately, fast and aggressive. Nara barely dodged. She was weaker than normal, her movements slower. In the balcony, Yuna buried her face in Kalen's shoulder. The boy watched, his hands clenched. Cypher whined, wanting to help but knowing he couldn't. This was Nara's fight. Vikros struck again. His blade cut Nara's arm. She fell back, bleeding. "You were always weak," Vikros taunted. "Just like your father. Too soft to rule." Nara stood up slowly. "My father taught me that strength isn't just about power. It's about knowing when to fight and when to protect." She changed her strategy. Instead, the first Drexar troops smashed through the palace's eastern wall. They were massive creatures built like tanks with armor grafted to their bodies. Their weapons fired plasma that melted everything it touched. Panic spread through the Great Hall. Nobles screamed and ran. Guards tried to form defensive positions but were overwhelmed quickly. The Drexar had been planning this assault, waiting for chaos during the coronation. "Everyone out," Nara commanded. "Evacuate the palace. Use the emergency tunnels." Some nobles listened. Others stood frozen in fear. Taemin grabbed his weapon. "Donghyun, Myungsu, get the children to safety. Ji-won, can you lock down sections of the palace?" "Already working on it," Ji-won replied through the communicator. "But there are too many access points. They're flooding in from multiple directions." A group of Drexar soldiers burst into the Great Hall. They saw Nara and aimed their weapons. Taemin fired first. His shots were precise, hitting weak points in their armor. Falthine guards joined him, forming a defensive line around the throne. But more Drexar kept coming. "We can't hold here," one of the Falthine commanders said. "We need to fall back to the throne room. It's more defensible." "No," Nara said firmly. "If we abandon this hall, we abandon the symbol of our empire. We hold here." "Princess, that's suicide." "Then we die standing." Taemin looked at her. "You know, for someone I found dying on an abandoned moon, you've gotten really stubborn about living." She smiled despite the danger. "I learned from you," Cypher barked a warning. More Drexar were coming from the northern entrance. The battle was brutal. Drexar were strong but slow. Falthine were fast but fragile. Humans like Taemin fell somewhere in between, tougher than Falthine, more agile than Drexar. It gave them an advantage. Taemin fought differently than the Falthine guards. He didn't try to match strength with strength. He used tactics, cover, misdirection. He made the Drexar chase him, then led them into traps. He protected injured guards and civilians, pulling them to safety. "How is he doing that?" one Falthine noble asked, watching Taemin take down a Drexar twice his size. "Humans fight differently," Nara explained. "They fight like they're always the underdog. Because they usually are." Above the planet, a different battle was happening. Earth ships had arrived. Not many. Maybe 20 vessels against hundreds of Drexar warships. But they fought with desperate determination. "This is Commander Da-un of Earth's Third Fleet," a voice broadcast on all channels. "We're engaging Drexar forces. All civilians evacuate the area." "Earth Fleet?" Nara was shocked. "But your government declared neutrality. They weren't supposed to help." "Governments change their minds," Taemin said, firing at another enemy soldier. "Especially when someone proves the right thing is worth fighting for." In orbit, Da-un watched her tactical display. The numbers were terrible. Earth was outgunned badly. "All ships target their command vessel," she ordered. "We don't need to win. We just need to buy time for the evacuation." Human tactics in space matched their tactics on ground. They didn't fight fair. They used asteroids for cover. They targeted enemy sensors, blinding them. They made the Drexar fight where humans had advantages. One Earthship rammed a Drexar cruiser, sacrificing itself to destroy a vessel 5 times its size. "Remember them," Da-un said quietly. "Remember what they did today." In the palace, Nara fought beside her people. She wasn't a warrior by training, but desperation made her effective. And something else drove her. Anger at Vikros for bringing this destruction to her home. A Drexar commander pushed through the defenders, heading straight for Nara. He was huge, covered in battle scars, wielding a weapon that could level buildings. "You're the princess," he growled. "Vikros promised us technology. You ruined that deal. Now we take what we want." He raised his weapon. Nara had nowhere to dodge. Cypher hit him from the side. The dog's jaws found a gap in the armor, biting down hard. The Drexar roared and threw Cypher against a wall. The dog hit hard and didn't get up. "No!" Nara screamed. Something changed in that moment. The Falthine guards saw their princess's pain over an injured animal. They saw her care for a creature that wasn't even her species. It inspired something in them. They attacked together, coordinated, protecting Nara while she ran to Cypher. The dog was breathing but hurt badly. His leg was bent wrong. "Stay with me," Nara whispered. "Please, you've saved me so many times." "Let me save you." Taemin appeared beside her, providing cover fire. "Get him out of here. I'll hold them." "You can't hold them alone." "I'm not alone." Taemin gestured to the Falthine guards fighting beside him. "Go, keep Cypher safe." "That's an order from a soldier to his princess," Nara wanted to argue. But she knew he was right. She carefully lifted Cypher, surprised by her own strength. Maybe humans weren't the only ones who could do impossible things when it mattered. She carried Cypher toward the medical wing. Behind her, the sounds of battle continued. Ahead of her, Donghyun met her halfway. "Give him here," the medic said. "I'll fix him." "Can you?" "He's not Valthian or human. He's different. All dogs are tough, especially ones stupid enough to attack a Drexer commander." Donghyun smiled. "He'll be fine. Now get back to your people. They need to see you standing strong." Nara returned to the Great Hall. The situation had changed. More Valthian forces had arrived, loyal soldiers responding to news that their princess lived. The tide was turning, but Vikros was nowhere to be seen. "Where is he?" Nara demanded. "Where did Vikros go?" "The prisoner escaped during the fighting," a guard reported. "We think he went to the lower levels." Nara knew immediately where he was going. The weapons vault, where the advanced technology was stored. If he reached it, he could still complete his deal with the Drexar. She ran, ignoring exhaustion and pain. Taemin followed her. They found Vikros in the vault, frantically loading weapons onto a transport platform. He looked desperate now, his elegant robes torn and dirty. "It's over," Nara said. "Surrender. It's not over," Vikros screamed. "I was supposed to rule. I deserve this." "Your father was weak and you're weaker. The Empire needs strength. The Empire needs honor. You have none." Vikros grabbed a weapon, aiming it at Nara. "I should have killed you myself instead of trusting poison." "But you didn't," a new voice said. Kaelin and Yuna stepped into the vault. They'd escaped from Donghyun's protection following their sister. "You were supposed to protect us," Kaelin said to his uncle. "You were family." "Family is weakness," Vikros spat. "No," Nara said. "Family is strength. Real strength. The kind you never understood." She didn't attack Vikros. She didn't need to. Royal guards surrounded him, loyal soldiers who'd heard everything. They took him into custody, disarming him without violence. Vikros collapsed, defeated truly this time. "I could have made the Empire great," he whispered. "You would have destroyed it," Nara replied. "And destroyed yourself trying." Above the planet, the Drexar forces were retreating. Without Vikros's support, without the promised weapons, they had no reason to continue fighting. Commander Daun's fleet had held long enough. "Drexar Command is requesting ceasefire," Daun reported. "They're pulling back." Relief flooded through her crew. They'd survived. Barely. In the palace, Nara addressed what remained of the nobility. Many were injured. Some were dead. The beautiful Great Hall was scorched and broken. "Lord Vikros betrayed us all," Nara said. "He sold our honor for power. He allied with our enemies. He tried to murder his own family. Under Valthian law, I could execute him." Everyone waited. Traditional justice was clear. Treason meant death. Nara looked at Taemin. He stood quietly with his team. These humans who'd fought for an empire that wasn't theirs. They'd shown mercy when they could have abandoned her. They'd chosen the hard ride over the easy wrong. "But I learned something from humans," Nara continued. "I learned that strength isn't just about punishment. It's also about knowing when to show mercy." Gasps filled the hall. This was unprecedented. Vikros will be exiled, stripped of title, property, and family name. He'll live, but as nothing. Let him spend his days knowing he had everything and threw it away. Some nobles looked shocked. Others looked thoughtful. It was a new kind of justice for the Valthian Empire. Vikros was led away. He looked broken, smaller somehow. His chance for greatness had turned into absolute disgrace. Nara turned to Taemin. "You and your people fought for us. You risked your lives. Why?" "Because it was right," Taemin said simply. "And because you're our friend." "Friend," Nara repeated the word. Humans use that word easily. For Valthian, friendship is rare, precious, and you have mine, forever. She performed a traditional blessing, marking Taemin and his team as honored allies of the throne. It was the highest recognition possible for non-Valthian. In the medical wing, Cypher woke up to find Yuna petting him gently. His leg was bandaged but would heal. "You're a hero," the young princess told him. "Everyone is talking about the Earth Hound who attacked a Drexar commander." Cypher's tail wagged weakly. He didn't understand words like hero. He only knew he'd protected his pack. That was what good dogs did. That night, as the palace began repairs and counted losses, Nara stood on a balcony with Taemin. The city below was damaged but standing. The crisis had passed. "What happens now?" Taemin as Nara was crowned empress in a ceremony that was smaller, but more meaningful than the one Vikros had planned. She wore simpler robes. She spoke shorter speeches. But when she took the crown, every person in the hall knew she'd earned it. Kaylin and Yuna stood beside her as co-regents until they reached adulthood. The siblings had become closer, bound by shared trauma and survival. They ruled together, 3 young royals learning to lead an empire that needed healing. The Drexar Collective withdrew from Valthene space after multiple species condemned their attempted coup. Their military advantage disappeared when they lost access to Valthene technology. They returned to their borders quieter and less aggressive. War had been avoided. On Earth, things changed too. Taemin received a full pardon after Commander Dayun testified about his actions. She explained how his choice to save Nara had prevented a galactic war, how his defiance of orders had actually saved countless human lives. Earth's government did more than pardon him. They gave him their highest honor, the Star of Valor, awarded to those who showed extraordinary courage beyond duty. The ceremony was broadcast across all human colonies. Taemin stood in his formal uniform, uncomfortable with the attention. Cypher sat beside him wearing a ceremonial collar. The dog had become famous too. Children across Earth knew the story of the Hound who saved an empress. "You showed us who we can be," Earth's president said during the ceremony. "Not just warriors or survivors, but protectors, helpers, friends to those who need us. You represented the best of humanity." Taemin accepted the medal, said a few awkward words, and left as quickly as possible. He'd never been comfortable with praise. But there was one more ceremony waiting, one that mattered more than Earth's honors. A formal invitation had arrived from Empress Nara. She wanted Taemin to visit the Valthene homeworld again, this time as an honored guest, not a fugitive. Taemin brought his team, Donghyun, Myungsu, Jiwon, and Subin. They'd all been pardoned too. They'd all become unexpected heroes. And of course he brought Cypher. The palace had been repaired. The damage from the battle was gone, replaced with new beauty. But something was different. The cold perfection was gone. Now there were plants growing in the corridors. Art from multiple species on the walls. It felt warmer, more welcoming. Nara greeted them personally, something that shocked the traditional nobles. Empresses didn't greet guests at the door. "You came," she said, smiling. Her royal markings glowed brightly now, full of health and life. "You invited us," Taemin replied. "We couldn't refuse an empress." "Don't call me that when we're alone. I'm still just Nara, the person you found dying on a forgotten moon." Cypher barked happily and jumped up, putting his paws on Nara's shoulders. She laughed and hugged the dog. "Yes, I missed you too, First Guardian." The reunion was interrupted by 2 young voices shouting excitedly. Kaylin and Yuna ran up, followed by several small creatures. "Puppies," Yuna squealed. Taemin stared. "Cypher, you didn't tell me you were a father." Cypher wagged his tail proudly. During his recovery, he'd met a female tracking hound from Earth's embassy. Now there were 6 puppies, half Cypher's size, all looking exactly like their father. "We're giving them as gifts," Kaylin explained, "to the worlds that supported us. Each puppy will be a symbol of the new alliance." "It was my idea," Nara said. "Cypher saved my life. His children will help unite our peoples." That night there was a formal dinner, not the stiff ceremonial type that the Valthene usually held. This was different. Humans sat beside Valthene nobles. Stories were shared. Laughter echoed through the hall. Subin talked business with alien merchants. Jiwon discussed technology with Valthene scientists. Myungsu told flying stories that made everyone laugh. Donghyun compared medical techniques with the royal physician. It was messy. It was loud. It was perfect. After dinner, Nara took Taemin to the same balcony where they'd talked months ago. The city below was alive with lights. Ships from a dozen worlds filled the sky. "I have something to ask you," Nara said. "Earth and the Valthene Empire are signing a formal alliance tomorrow. We need someone to represent humanity at my court. Someone I trust completely. An ambassador. More than that. A friend who'll tell me when I'm wrong. Who'll help me build bridges instead of walls." Taemin was quiet for a moment. "I'm just a scout. I map abandoned colonies and avoid trouble. You're someone who saw a dying stranger and chose to help. That's exactly who we need. What about my team?" "Cypher, they're all welcome. Donghyun can establish a medical exchange program. Jiwon can work on technology sharing. Subin already has trade deals planned. Myungsu can train pilots. And Cypher," she smiled, Cypher can just be himself. That's more than enough. Taemin looked at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth. Home, but home wasn't just a place. Home was the people you cared about, the causes you believed in. All right, he said. We'll stay. We'll help you build something better. Together, Nara said. That's the human word I'm learning to love, together. The next day, the alliance was signed in the Great Hall. Earth's ambassador and Empress Nara put their marks on the treaty. It was more than politics. It was a promise to protect each other, to learn from each other, to be better together than they were apart. Taemin stood beside Nara as humanity's first permanent representative to the Valthene court. His team stood with him. Cypher sat at his feet, the mark of First Guardian still visible on his forehead. Cameras from 100 worlds recorded the moment. Children across the galaxy watched. They saw humans and Valthene standing together. They saw different species choosing cooperation over conflict. They saw what was possible when people chose to see each other as equals. One reporter asked Nara about the future, about what this alliance meant for the galaxy. For too long we judged species by their age and their technology, Nara said. Humans are young. They only reached the stars recently. By our standards, they should be primitive, unimportant. She paused, looking at Taemin. But when I was dying, abandoned by my own people, it was humans who saved me. A human soldier who risked everything for a stranger. A human dog who refused to leave my side. Humans who taught me that true strength isn't about power. It's about loyalty, honor, the courage to do what's right even when it costs everything. So what changed? The reporter asked. I did. My empire did. We learned that maybe we were wrong about what makes a species great. Another reporter addressed Taemin. What made you save her? You knew it would ruin your career. You knew it broke your orders. Why do it? Taemin shrugged. She needed help. That's all I needed to know. That simple? Humans tend to keep things simple. We see someone suffering, we try to help. We see injustice, we try to fix it. We're not always successful, but we try, even when it's impossible, especially when it's impossible. That's when trying matters most. The reporters loved it. The quote spread across the galaxy within hours. Humans try the impossible. It became a saying, a meme, a representation of what humanity brought to the galactic community. Months passed. The alliance grew stronger. Human colonies expanded with Valthene protection. Valthene traders visited Earth, amazed by the diversity and chaos of human civilization. Cultural exchanges began. Valthene students studied on Earth. Human artists showed their work in the Empire's galleries. The differences between species became interesting rather than threatening. Cypher's puppies grew up. Each one went to a different world as Nara had planned. They became symbols of the alliance, living reminders of the day a dog helped save an empire. One puppy went to Commander Dai-Yun. She named him Brave, and he became the first dog to serve on an Earth warship. Another went to Haven Station, where he became the unofficial mascot of the community. The others spread across friendly worlds, each starting their own stories. Cypher himself became a father figure to diplomatic relations. He attended meetings with Taemin, his calm presence helping ease tensions. There was something about a dog that made everyone relax, something honest and pure that politics couldn't corrupt. A year after the coronation, Nara visited Earth for the first time. The trip was historic, the first Valthene empress to visit the human homeworld. Taemin gave her a tour. She saw Earth's oceans and was amazed by so much water. She visited cities and was overwhelmed by the crowds. She ate human food and loved some of it, hated some of it, and asked for recipes to take home. But the moment that mattered most was visiting a small park where children played. Human children mostly, but some alien kids too. Earth's cities had become more diverse as relations with other species improved. The children recognized Nara from news broadcasts. They ran up excited and fearless the way children are. You're the space princess, one boy shouted. I am an empress, Nara corrected gently. But yes, I suppose I am a space princess too. Did Cypher really save you? A girl asked. He did. Multiple times. Can we pet him? Nara looked at Taemin, who nodded. Cypher was immediately surrounded by small humans petting him and asking questions. The dog's tail wagged constantly. He loved children. One little girl, maybe 5 years old, hugged Cypher tight. Thank you for saving the princess, she whispered to him. You're a good dog. Cypher licked her face. She giggled.